prolific Morrowind modder MelchiorDahrk and his team are busy working on Lyithdonea, the Azurian Isles. This project is a massive new lands mod for the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. The mod features a tropical paradise between Tamriel and Akavir, inhabited by one of the last remnants of the Chimera race. Yes, you heard it right. We get to see the Chimera people for the very first time in any Elder Scrolls game or mod. For those who don't know, the Chimera were the Almeri tribes of dissidents who abandoned the ways of Somerset Isle, followed Prophet Veloth, and embarked on a great exodus to Morrowind. We all know what happened in the First Era when the tribunal betrayed an oath which led to the Daedric Lord Azura cursing the Chimera people, whose skin turned black as ash and their eyes became red. The Chimera ceased to exist and the days of the Dharma began. I am very excited to explore a whole new landmass and find out about how the Chimera people got here and how they escaped the curse. The mod has a strong influence from Azura with dusk and dawn themes, and Azura being the focus of religion in the region. As of early 2025, the world of Lyithdonea is fully explorable. There's a wiki with all the world building details, and MelchiorDahrk and his team are working hard to complete faction quests and a narrative story based main quest. In this video, we will explore Lyithdonea and discuss the geography, cities, settlements, points of interest, factions, and more. We then end with dream time as usual for some stunning screenshots, so stick around till the end. The intro quest starts at Sadithmora, where we ask the locals about the latest rumors, and apparently people on Azura's coast are having dreams of standing in a lake of fire. Yikes! I would not enjoy such a dream, would you? The buoyant armigers were sent to the Shrine of Azura to investigate this madness, and we get an entry in our journal. So, strange dreams, a lake of fire and buoyant armigers. We should definitely get involved, so let's rush to the Shrine of Azura. We head to the shrine, and sure enough, we find a coterie of buoyant armigers. We speak to the captain, who says that the people are having fiery dreams with uncomfortable levels of perceived heat. They are investigating to find if the Shrine of Azura was the focal point. If we continue to chat with the captain, we get some more information about how this location at Azura's coast has some magiographic properties. Apparently, these properties bestow certain effects on people. Also, travelers have found visions of Azura looking mournfully to the east, when such dreams are not a common occurrence outside of the Ashland occults. We get an entry in our journal to look for some clues. As we approach the magnificent shrine of Azura, we see sparks of many colors coming from the censer. We move ahead and we are transported to a fiery realm, a hellish world filled with lava, smoke and death. We are drawn to a structure in the middle. Dead creatures are all around. We see the most beautiful elven lady staring into our soul with her glowy yellow eyes. As the woman stops in front of us, a voice fills our mind. Lyithdonea, Lyithdonea. And just like that, we are transported to Sadithmora. What? How? What the hell is going on? So we get an entry in our journal. So who was that beautiful lady? What is this Lyithdonea? We need to talk to some locals. So we speak to Elgal here near the slave market, and he suggests speaking to a member of the Mages Guild. Apparently, they were talking about a very special shipment. Alright, let's jump to Wolverine Hall. This building. A pathetic attempt on the part of the Imperials to project power when they are so powerless here. Also, this building is such an eyesore in the middle of greatness. Let's talk to Dabien. We learn that Lyithdonea is an actual place with a Mages Guild and a race of Mer who worship Azura. That's interesting. Let's speak to good old Skin Tree Shade. He asks us to deliver a trade license to Ilmenon at the Gateway Inn. Okay, let's speak to this Ilmenon. He may know more about Lyithdonea. So let's enjoy a glorious jump as we land right at the door of the Gateway Inn. So we meet Ilmenon and hand over the trading license. But he offers us a job. a hired hand on a ship sailing to Lyithdonea. Hell yes, we got a strange vision, a voice in our head, and now we get to visit Lyithdonea. If this is not destiny, then what is? So this is where our journey begins. We set sail from Tamriel to the Padomaic Ocean. How exciting! All of a sudden, the ship stops in the middle of nowhere. We find Ilmenon and his motley crew, including this guy, Kurok. Ilmenon asks us to place an idol at the altar in the hold. Okay, let's do it. We enter the lower deck and find lots of cargo heading to Lyithdonea from Vardenfell. We place the aquamarine idol at the shrine and then go back up. We learn that Ilmenon is a superstitious poppycock and his old seaman habits die hard. He suggests getting some sleep. So we jump into our hammock and enjoy a lovely nap until we are awake, listening to a lot of commotion on board. Are we being attacked? Ilmenon was happy that we provide some support fighting the Padomaic pirates. We investigate the bodies of the pirates who have some interesting armor on them. So Ilmenon was happy to get the ship moving again. After several hours of sailing, we arrive at Lyithdonea. What a beautiful world away from Tamriel. We arrive on the island of Dordala, which has the Mages Guild. Our adventure begins. And that completes the intro quest. It was an awesome quest. It really felt as if we were part of a journey with all its joys and perils. Wonderful work by MelchiorDahrk and his team. As we fly over the magnificent Azurian Isles, let's discuss some lore and world building. So how did Azura envision and create these islands, now known as the Azurian Isles? If you read a book called The Translation, everything becomes clear. Far from the greed of imperial conquest and the treachery of oathbreakers, Azura, the Lady of Star, bestowed her inner thoughts on none. From the flower of her mind sprang a land, the Azurian Isles. Lady Azura descended upon the Padomaic Ocean, her heart cried out because of her people's persecution. They were driven to the edge of the world, forced into hiding. They were slowly losing faith in her vision. Azura deliberated to shape another land for the few still loyal to her, those of her house whom she spared from the curse. To the east and south of Resdain, Azura came upon a patch of stilled waters. Finding this region to be suitable, she began to weave her powerful abilities. With her bare hands, she drew the first ground from under the sea, shaping dry land. The first isle she called Dawn because it was the dawn of the year. Azura took great care with Dawn, moving beautiful waterfalls, tranquil gardens, and smooth beaches across its infant surface. Everything Azura touched was forever changed, for she was manifested in the world in her full power. The isles reflected her every whim and trait. Beauty and tranquility lay among every grove of palm trees and beyond every mountain peak. Azura fell upon the final isle and rested. Her sleep made it dark. When she awoke, she looked around her and saw darkness and called the place dusk. Then the Twilight Lady returned to Moonshadow, and thus were the Azurian Isles prepared. I will leave a link in the description so you guys can read this amazing book. And let me tell you guys, the moment I finished reading this book, I immediately wanted to explore dawn and dusk regions of Azurian Isles and immerse myself in its scenic beauty. MelchiorDahrk has an incredible talent for painting pictures in your head. Spectacular writing. So I had a question for Melchior. If Uriel Septim V captured Ersoniet on the Padomaic Ocean during his attempted conquest of Akabir, then why didn't he capture Lyithdonea? Melchior says, early on I had some obscure lore about how Azura hid Lyithdonea in something I called Moonshade, which explained why the Imperials didn't invade during their conquest of Akabir. I'm not 100% certain if that's the explanation now, I did move the island further south, so it's less directly in the invasion path though. And yes, as you can see from this map, Lyithdonea is located south of Ersoniet, Nislia and Kathonokwe group of islands in the Padamaic Ocean. I then asked him if we would be able to visit Ersoniet. He replied, "You will get to see some of the SC culture through the Padamaic pirates." I and couple others did start an Ersoniet mod a few years back, but it never got off the ground. I have a few assets and some lore that made its way into Lyithdonea from that project though. That's where the Ersoniet lore came from, that you will read on the wiki, mostly created by Luchevar. Okay, so the locals of Lyithdonea know about Ersoniet, and they also deal with the visitors, the Padamaic pirates. So Melchior says, "Yes, exactly. Sealoff recently made a big pirate cave for them, and it inspired me to make their faction more than just evil bandits for the player to kill." Okay, that's cool. The fact that one can join a pirate faction is awesome. Talking about factions, Lyithdonea will have many joinable factions with questlines. We will get into those in the next section. It's a beautiful morning here with a spectacular sunrise, and that is the city of Azura. What a sight! The great House Azura is based in that city. House Azura is the governing political faction in Lyithdonea. By reading an in-game book called History of House Azura, we come to know that back in the Meretic era, High Velothi culture devolved into tribal cultures that emerged as the Great Houses, Minor Houses and Ashlanders. These houses, including House Azura, existed primarily as priestly houses, and there were similar houses for Boithia and Mephala. In the first era, Azura accuses the tribunal of murdering Nerevar and curses the Chimera with red eyes and ashy skin, turning them into the Dunmer, and vowing to reincarnate him as the Nerevarine. House Azura has spared the curse and remains as some of the few remaining Chimera. The tribunal replaces Daedra and ancestor worship with themselves. This causes House Azura, House Boithia and House Mephala to fall out of favor in the new Dunmer Great House and tribunal temple culture. Sometime in 1E 750, Azura, seeing the persecution of her house, decides to make a new land for them to worship her in peace. In 1E 874, she summons all of her faithful to the Isles, and thus House Azura departs under the guidance of Azura for the Azurian Isles. In 1E 1354, the first Azuran magnate was elected to office, faced Ratha Azura. The term magnate denotes the fact that the head of House Azura is still subordinate to Lady Azura and serves as her steward. In 2E248, the Azurian Isles entered what is now being referred to as the Ebon Age of Lyithdonea. During that time, Western influence increased as trade and communication with the imperial provinces were encouraged by the government and tolerated by the priesthood. That is when the fighters in the Mages Guild was established in Lyithdonea. In 2E882, when Dagoth Ur awoke, House Azura closed their borders and ceased all trade with Morrowind. All of this diminished relations between House Azura and Morrowind. In 3E414, when Morrowind was officially incorporated into the Empire with the signing of the Armistice, the Azurian Isles did not follow suit. House Azura retained its own government far from the influence of the Imperials. So there you have it, guys. That was a brief history of House Azura, an ancient house who over the centuries had to constantly monitor events in Vardenfell and act accordingly to protect its own citizens. As of now, we only have House Azura as the political great house. There are no other houses competing with them. But that might change. I really love the world building of the house and look forward to the House Azura questline. So as we got to know, the Mages Guild was established sometime in the Second Era. The guild's single Lyithdonian chapter house was established on the island of Dordala. The island's deed was purchased from House Azura on 2E712. The right of architecture was granted the same year, which preserved imperial construction influence on the island to the present day. The Guild of Mages is primarily interested in the conflict from an academic perspective. They are highly interested in the metaphysical implications of a Daedric conflict. They care little for the internal Chimera politics as long as it doesn't affect their charter to stay in Lyithdonea to conduct study. The Rosery is the face of Azura in the Isles and possibly in Tamriel, and is headed by the High Priestess, who directly communes with Lady Azura on a daily basis. Discerning the will and advice of our mother is the High Priestess's primary goal. The second most respectable position in the Rosery is that of the Prophet. The Prophets are tasked with assisting and in the summoning of Azura within the sanctuary. Departing from the priestly duties of the High Priestess and the Prophets, the elders of the Rosery oversee the flow of theats and offerings. Now we come to one of the most important yet contrite of the Rosarian roles, the priest of the admonition branch. The priests will often answer questions from the faithful or visit throughout the city to spread the goodwill of Our Lady Azura. The greatest requirement to join the Azuran Rosary is that the proselyte must foster a profound desire to shake off mortal inhibitions and a willingness to heed wise counsel. With time, a deep respect for the lady's mystery will blossom like a cultivated rose. I look forward to working with this faction. Separating religious and political groups makes sense. Let's just hope the player does not become the High Priestess of the Rosery at the end of the questline. The player does not have to become the head of every faction like in vanilla. Alright, let's talk about the other factions. The Walktong are a divers and swimmers guild. They are dedicated to the conservation of water-based life and the preservation of artifacts both rare and mundane found in the waters and shores of Lyithdonea. They have strong ties to a separatist sect of the Morrowind who inhabited Lyithdonea before it was colonized by House Azura. They welcome members of all races into their ranks. They are politically neutral and do not involve themselves in the political drama of Lyithdonea. Next, we have the Padomike Pirates, also known as the Black Pirates. This hostile faction hails from the Black Harbour of Ersoniet. And then you have the Ratcatchers Guild. The Ratcatchers Guild operates in the sewers and underworks of Azura City. They catch rats and perform other menial tasks as a front for their petty crime business. Ooh. So rat catching is just a front. Their main business is something else. Awesome. I just love all of these factions and I can't wait for the questlines to be ready and dive into these. Amazing work. The Chimera. The Chimera were the Almari tribes of dissidents who abandoned the ways of Somerset Isle and embarked on a great exodus to Morrowind. Yes, these people are the majority on the Azurian Isles. We will meet many of them as we explore Lyithdonea. They look like Dunmer without the dark skin and red eyes. They have yellow eyes like Almalexia in Morrowind. Next we have the Esri. The Esri people are natives to Ersoniet, which is a spice island located between Tamriel and Akavir. As per Elder Scrolls lore, Ersoniet is the source of much of Tamriel's nutmeg, cloves, mace and hot peppers. MelchiorDahrk did say the following when I asked him about Ersi NPCs. I'd like for the Ersi to show up in Lyithdonea as black pirates, but it's a matter of whether I'll make a race for them or if Tamriel data decides to. Then we have the Morrowind. So the Morrowind race of people in Elder Scrolls lore reside in the island of Pyandhonia. Apparently, they were the former residents of Lyithdonea who left the islands once House Azura arrived. I assume many of them fled to Pyandhonia. As of the Third Era, do they trade with House Azura? Will we find Morrowind NPCs in Lyithdonea? I put this question to Melchior and he says, Lyithdonea is on neutral terms with Pyandhonia. The group of Morrowind who lived in Lyithdonea previously were a rebellious sect who left Pyandhonia. Although House Azura massacred them, they weren't viewed as a Pyandhonian colony or anything like that. It's possible there may be a few Morrowind in Lyithdonea. I've considered it for the Walktong and possibly still among warmer settlements. All of this is very exciting. Have you ever seen a Morrowind or an Ersi in any Elder Scrolls game? This would be the first time. And then you have the Nolmer. The Nolmer or the Void Elves are beings created by Asmanroth, who is referred to as the son of Azura. Legends say he was a mortal who ascended to Daedrahood after being blessed by Azura. From what I read, Asmendroth will be the chief antagonist in the main story of Lyithdonea, and the Nolmer are his minions. And then we have the Warmer. The Warmer are a group of elves related to the Chimera of House Azura, who mostly reside in the swampy Thousand Islands region. MelchiorDahrk has written an in-game book called Elves of the Southern Isles, which documents the Warmer. Apparently, the Warmer came to the Azurian Isles, and instead of aiding in the construction of the capital, they chose to separate from House Azura and settle in the scattered isles in the southwestern region. They still revere Azura, but do not commune with her directly. Instead, their wise women have dream visions, which they believe are sent by Azura to guide the Warmer. So essentially, we can consider the Warmer to be the Ashlanders of Lyithdonea, with wise women and other cultural differences, although they are not nomadic. Then we have the Dregs. The Dregs are an ancient species of aquatic octopus-like beast folk commonly hunted for their hide and wax scraped from their shells. I assume Dregs are a beast race and would also be found underwater like in Morrowind. According to Elder Scrolls lore and various legends, the Dreg once possessed a great civilization and ruled the whole world as kings. I wonder what happened to them. Did they lose their sentience sometime in the past? And finally, we have the Slode. The Slode are a race of slug-like beast folk native to the coral kingdoms of Thras, southwest of Tamriel. As per Elder Scrolls lore, they have diplomatic relations with the Mormor of Pyandhonia. So I assume, as of the Third Era, they trade with Lyithdonea as well. So will we have Slode NPCs running around in Lyithdonea? So I put that question to Melchior, and he said, there's actually a Slode necromancer planned to be in the Scabrous Residium area. There is another Slode individual which the player will encounter in the Walk Tong questline. So there you have it, guys. This was a super high level overview of the lore and world building of Lyithdonea for y'all. As of early 2025, one can explore the archipelago freely and soak in the atmosphere of this incredible creation. Quests, factions, NPC, and dialogue work are all pending. I really love the world building and writing. MelchiorDahrk is really onto something here. The team is giving more energy to Lyithdonea this year and hopes to make a lot of progress in 2025. Thank you, MelchiorDahrk and team, for all the amazing work. And thank you all for watching. I will return with more Lyithdonea content and updates in the future. We end the video with Dream Time as usual. Azura guide you.